it gets lost sometimes, but the thing that really bothers me about that is, if we were to take a vote tonight, it would go a certain way. And then if we wait, you know. I see what you're saying. More people get involved in that. Well, it just might go the same way. You know, if you go either way, you know what I mean? Like, that's not just and the people who are voting no, we're going to vote no. And people who are going to vote yes, vote yes. And so, what did we wait for? You know, like saying. Well, you know what? Yeah.
Hi, Mick. Hi, Austin.
How you doing, Valerie?
Good. How are you?
Hanging in there, enjoying the beautiful weather.
Yeah, I know. It's so nice out.
This weather puts the spring in spring Glen.
Yes, yes, it does.
Even though I'm from the northern part of your district.
Yes. I'm sure it's springy there too.
Oh, it certainly is. Yep, absolutely. How's everything? Okay?
Yeah, good.
Gotcha, Marge.
Hi, everybody. I'm not being antisocial. I'm just still working at the desk.
Hi, Chief. Hi, Kim.
Hi. Hi, Ms. Horsley. Hi, everybody.
How are you feeling?
A little bit better today.
It's good to hear.
Yeah.
A beautiful day out.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
All right, see you in there. Okay, bye-bye.
Well, I got one, I think. Yeah, here you go.
Everybody.
There you go.
Hi.
Hey, Valerie,
Hello.
Austin. Hey, Betty. Hey, Ken.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Kath. Marjorie. Hey, Kim.
Hey.
Hi.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Almost there.
All right.
Dana's on her way.
Ice tea.
7. That's great.
Coffee.
Large.
Yeah.
My collar stays went through the dryer. Oh, well.
What went through the dryer?
My collar stays.
Ah. That's what you get for using a dryer. You'd hung that shirt on a clothesline, those collar stays would have stayed put.
Good point, Miss Shoemaker. Good point.
You know, I wish we could, I would love to do clotheslines, but where I live, they're not allowed. Can you
Yeah,
imagine?
we got it. What, are you in a condo complex?
No, I live in a subdivision, but the covenant, said no, siding. It had to be real wood siding, and you couldn't have live animals, and you couldn't have a clothesline,
You have live animals, don't you?
but not like out in the yard, like not
Oh,
like,
I see.
or,
But we have to do
livestock.
something about that banning clotheslines.
I
don't
think
know.
so too.
Why can't you have a clothesline?
Because,
People
I
think
don't,
it looks,
having your,
passe.
dirty laundry strung around.
Well,
I don't
hopefully it's
hang my
clean after
underwear
it's-
outside. I got a wood rack. I keep that indoors, but your
Right.
shirts, your pants, your towels, your sheets, all that other stuff, that can go.
Smells so nice when you hang them outside.
Oh, it
Yep.
smells so good.
I always use the sun when I can. I always do.
I know you do, Margie.
I find your reference to the covenant a little,
Witchy.
the covenant to speak.
And antiques. Heather, you will have the draw backstage, so you get to pick the first category. Which one would you like to play?
Whose
Yeah, a little bit of
background
background.
noise is that?
I think it might be no, it's not the chief.
I don't know. Well, it came and went.
Came in.
Yeah, that's
Hi, Burrita.
Hello, Burrita.
She's putting her earbuds in.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Here, I made it.
Yes, you did. Boy, I'll tell you that after last weekend, I want us to have a sunshine date delay for deliberations. We were in the house for the sunny day, and then the next day was rainy. and
Rainy.
Cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know how you have a rain date for some things? Well, we have to have a sun date for this, where we postpone deliberations on a sunny Saturday.
That's right. Agreed.
I have seen districts that will have Sundays. They'll just say, it's so beautiful out. Go. Ahead. Those are ones that don't have snow days. Though.
Yeah.
Seven,
Bridget,
7, 8.
How are you?
good.
We'll give it 2 more minutes for folks to come. We do have a quorum now, but why don't we give it 2 minutes?
Okay.
1, 2,
I know Athena's in transit, so
7,
it might be a difficulty.
8. Okay. Mick, while we're waiting, do we have another date for a follow-up with NCCJ? Do I have the initials right?
Yes, and actually, we were just, Ms. Cogwell and I were just talking about that. And where we came down on, the dates available during this busy season for us were not a lot. So I think for the most effective use of our time, what we're gonna do is we'll wait till after budget, and then we'll try to schedule some back-to-back days.
Okay,
Like, we would have to have one,
okay,
it was May 11th, and then one May, whenever.
okay, yeah.
Group it together, get budget over with, and then we can have a couple days where we can.
I understand. I just wanted to know if there were any coming up that I needed to book on my calendar. I think that's a fine plan. Thank you for that
I
update.
think next, Ms. Coswell, you're in contact with them about the next days?
Yes, you said you wanted to wait, so we could try to hit back to back after the budget's done. So I
I will speak to Naya about that.
Thank you.
Kristen Dolan says she's on her way. She's making 6 o'clock. It's a little tough to get there right at 6. She'll be here.
Thank you.
Can be hard.
We have a drop dead finish date for budget, right? So,
Yep,
okay.
there it is on the calendar, the
So,
16th. So,
so we know when the dates open up for that. Okay, great. Thank you.
and we do have 2 nights scheduled, I believe the 11th and the 12th, that are TBD. And the 13th is a Thursday, which is open. The 15th is a Saturday, which could be possible, but let's see if we can, wrap it up by, the 13th or 15th would be.
I'm sorry, but did the schedule change again? Because I have something on the 11th and the 13th on my calendar.
Yeah, that's what we have.
Yeah.
We have the 11th and the 13th, but not the 12th.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say the 12th? I apologize. So the 11th and the 13th are TBD. We can always add the 12th if needed, and possibly the 15th.
On that note, right, in addition to adding dates, the governor does allow us to he allows us some extra time. Doesn't mean we have to take all of it, but under what circumstances might we consider an extra few days? Because we're cramming 4 or 5 meetings a week at this point. We can talk a lot about late meetings and not doing our best work, but a lot of us have a lot of other responsibilities, and 4 or 5 meetings a week, we're not doing our best work there either. It might make sense to take an extra week or 2 that the state is offering us and do our best work. At what point we
It
consider
would have to be, it is a lot, but we did try to pace it out so that we only have 2 departments tonight. We have just PD, traffic and animal control on one night, just PW on another night, and recreation. So tried to space it out so that hopefully it's not overly burdensome. But the circumstances that we would take extra time would have to be extraordinarily dire, because we are on a time crunch when it comes to getting the mill rate out, getting the tax bills out. And Mr. Jackson, I don't know, did you want to speak to the possibility, the consequences of a TAN if we did take extra time, or?
Certainly, it's it's pretty cut and dried. And thank you, Mr. President. The further we get past that deadline, and we do not take the extension issued by the governor, the more likely it is that we will need a TAN, because we have to get the bills out on time. Otherwise, the tax revenue doesn't start to come in, and therefore we end up in a cash crunch.
We're talking about 5 weeks. We're talking about like 3rd, 4th week of May. We're not talking about end of June. We're not talking about not being able to get the mill rate and the bills out on time. We're talking about an extra week so we can do the work well. I do agree that the schedule is reasonable and something that we can do. But again, it's 4 meetings a week. We're probably again running up against that same issue, right? Are we doing our best work here? A few extra days might not help if we extended it 5 days. It's just something to keep in our back pocket. Thank you.
And I want to be totally upfront and honest. It's unless tornado strikes, there's no Wi-Fi, it's going to stay in the back pocket because I don't want to run the risk of having a cash flow issue come July 1st.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Might I suggest we get going?
Let's get going. We have plenty of people here now. I'll take this meeting out of recess at 6:10. Ms. Renta will not take the roll, but we'll make note of who is here. And having said that, our first item is the personnel, and Councilor Horsley will be leading our discussion today.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to open it up to see if Mr. Kelly or Ms. Cogswell would like to speak about their department before we get started with deliberations.
Sure. Thank you very much, Councilwoman Horsley. When we met back in March, I told you that we had submitted a flat budget. The only increases that we had were for the 2 administrative support positions that are in the town hall bargaining unit. Line items changed a little bit. I put some more into test supplies and took some out of physical exams. And we created a new line item of training that we're hopeful to get into the budget this year. And while the mayor graciously put in for raises for myself and Mrs. Cogswell, as I just want to reiterate that we did not recommend that. We weren't really in favor of that at this particular time, given the town's fiscal situation. So we were fine with staying exactly where we were. But we have recently had some discussions with the administration regarding training, specifically diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. And I think Bridget can talk to that a little bit.
Yes, I think that I am appreciative of the fact that we could even talk about this, but I do believe that there is an opportunity for us to take advantage of at this time, that we have found that both among our employee base as well as in our community, the issues around diversity, equity, and inclusion have become more and more important. And we feel that that education is critical for our employee base. We have seen that over the last 5 years, we have had an increase in the numbers in terms of the diversity of our employees, and we are looking to continue that. But we also know that it's critical that we provide training in order to make sure that we are prepared to create a workforce that respects diversity. So we were looking to identify if in fact the council felt that this was the time to increase our training line so that we can put training in place. Clearly with our $1,500 request, that was just a very small beginning, but I have found that I've done a lot of work with our department heads around educating them and helping them to understand the value of creating a diverse workforce. And therefore, when we are doing our hiring, I speak to the need for us to have some training around these issues so that we can embrace this starting from the top. So that's the $1,500 that we have in the budget. Long-term, Ken and I have worked on a plan that would allow us to roll this out for all the employees throughout the town. I've done segments of the population. 2 years ago, I did training with the police department. I actually was hired as a consultant to do just this work. So I've done training with the fire department over 5 years ago. So we've tried to do segments of the population, and unfortunately, it has been in response to a particular incident or a particular need at that time. We would like to be proactive and design a program that would educate our employees and help them to understand all of the components around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So if we were to do that, we would obviously need more funds. And so we were looking so that you would know as you do your planning that we would probably look at $25,000 for a training budget for an employer our size. And what you will find is that's not unusual as we look at other employers and municipalities, that they have those dollars set aside for both the training, the recruitment, and to have a strategic plan around these issues. So again, we are respectful, we are sensitive to understanding the fiscal responsibilities of the town. And so we just want you to know what we're planning and what we'd like to see in the future. But right now, we are able to identify where our priorities are. And that's why you see a flat budget and that we're trying to move forward with what we have. But we would like to start that conversation. And again, it's critical for our employees as well as for the community.
Yeah. Thank you. You needed. We have a Lego issue here, so I'm working on that. Any other discussion from the administration before we move? Counselor Farmer?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Through you, I unfortunately got on a little bit late, so I didn't get to hear the full conversation. So there's a flat budget. But are we factoring in any concerns around training or any other revisions, such as the police accountability bill or anything of that nature that we might have to be cognizant of through you, Chairwoman?
Ms. Cogswell, would you like to address that? Or would you like me to?
You could.
Okay, Counselor Farmer, what was discussed was increasing the training line by $25,000 to address diversity and inclusion, if that's something we want to do when we get to that part of the budget.
Just a point of personal privilege, if you will, Chairwoman. I guess my question is, great diversity training, inclusion training, anti-racism training, all could be helpful. But I guess my concern is more in terms of testing, testing and equipment concerns for departments. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure about the testing and equipment. If you could be more specific.
So speaking to like drug testing, equipment for storing of recording videos, such things of that nature, is there any other costs that we are concerned about? And then also I asked Director Kelly this before about how are we planning to stay on top of grants that will come in through the state to mitigate such costs through you, Chairwoman?
Ms. Horsley, can I make a quick point? Could we, information point, we get a motion to approve the, I guess,
Well,
there's only one revenue line here. Just so we're, we start, maybe we could do the revenue line and then get into expenses.
Oh, I apologize, counselors. I did not realize that we were still on the revenue, so I apologize.
yeah, no, we haven't yet put a motion.
Yeah, we just started.
So it's my understanding we're starting with positions. And so can I have a motion to move the positions as the mayor?
So
Second.
Great. So we have a move by Counselor Bonadies, second by Counselor Farmer. Any discussion on the positions? Counselor Shoemaker?
Thank you. Yes, I move to amend the salaries of the personnel director and human resources officer to revert to the departmental request.
Second.
Okay, moved by Counselor Shoemaker, seconded by Counselor Bonadies. Any discussion on this motion? President McGarry, did you have your hand up from before?
I did, sorry.
If that's okay. Counselor Bonadies. You're muted.
Thank you. And good evening to the personnel department. I just want to say thank you for your work and your very agreeable decision to revert back to the department request. I thank you. Makes budgeting for other things, like you said, priorities in your department, a much easier task. So thank you very much. I will be supporting that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak to this as the maker of the motion, if I may, Madam Chair.
Yes, Counselor Shoemaker.
Thank you. I echo Counselor Bonady's sentiments and will point out to my colleagues that that's $12,000 off of the mayor's proposed budget, which is close to half of the request for the equity and diversity and inclusion training. So there's a nice poetry to the offers from our personnel leaders, and between their offer to hold their salaries and their request for training funds. And I appreciate that.
Thank you. Counselor Farmer.
Thank you. Through you, Chairwoman. Is there and again, I apologize. I unfortunately had a constituent call before this meeting. Is there any particular department this training is being planned to be done for? Is this townwide? And what is our timeline in terms of making this expenditure? Through you, Chairwoman.
Counselor Farmer, do you mind if we wait until we get to the expenditures to discuss that? Because right now we're on the positions.
I apologize once again. I was just
No, that's okay.
off of Counselor Shoemaker. So sorry about
That's okay. We'll be right there after we finish these positions. Okay, any further discussion on the positions? Okay, seeing none, the positions as amended, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Not seeing any opposition. Any abstentions? No abstentions.
Just for the minutes, did we vote on the amendment?
You did not.
I thought that's what we were voting on right now.
Oh, I thought you were voting on all the positions as amended, but okay.
Maybe I said that's the amendment. Okay.
Okay,
So
thank you.
now we
Sorry.
will vote on the positions as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Seeing none, any abstentions? Okay, so the positions are passed as amended. So now I would like to move to the revenue line for personnel. There's one line for revenue. Can I have a motion to approve the mayor's requested budget for the revenue for personnel?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so moved by Counselor Farmer, seconded by Counselor Bonadies. Any discussion? Counselor Farmer.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Third time's the charm, right? Through you, Chairwoman, the two questions, to be succinct, is one, being a two-pronged question, is there a timeline for this training? And is this training for a department, or is this town-wide? The second question being, in terms of this money, does it also allocate or cognizant of requirements for the police accountability bill or any other drug testing or other equipment that we may need due to statutory changes at the LOB? Through you, Chairwoman.
So I wonder if the personnel department can just hold on to those questions until we get to the expenditure part of the budget. Is that okay? If you need to be reminded, Counselor Farmer can ask again, but we're currently on the revenue.
I apologize. I thought we already went through the revenue and went
No,
to
we're
position
just taking discussion on the revenue. No problem. We'll get to that in
Right.
just a second. Any further discussion on the revenue? Okay, so I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the revenue line as recommended by the mayor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, looks unanimous. Okay, we're now to the expenditures. Can I have a motion to approve the expenditures as recommended by the mayor?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, so it looks like President McGarry and there were lots of seconds. I don't know who wants to have it. I don't really. Counselor Bonadies. Okay. Counselor Farmer, do you want to go ahead and ask your questions again, or just, I don't know if people are ready.
I make a motion to get it on the floor.
I think we have the motion. So
would
I'd like to go ahead and address Counselor Farmer because he's been patiently waiting.
And I would like to just move to amend the training line by adding $25,000 to it. And at the second, then we can discuss that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we had an amendment to add $25,000 to the
training line. Yes, please.
And it was seconded by Counselor Roe Lewis.
And now it's now on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Counselor Farmer, would you like to reiterate your questions?
Sure, Chairwoman. I guess I'll just say it again. I'll see if I can be any more succinct. The two questions, one being a two-pronged question. What is this training entailed in terms of what departments is it going to be for? And what is the timeline of rollout for such a program? The second question being, for this training line, does this factor in resources and allocation for testing in terms of drug testing and other things, et cetera? And does it also factor in equipment changes due to any statutory changes at the LOB, either because of the police accountability bill or any other bills coming through the pipeline through you, Chairwoman?
Mr. Kelly or Ms. Cogswell, would you like to address those questions?
Well, I will say that we're talking town-wide, so definitely the program is not geared toward any one specific department. It's actually town-wide. That is a strategy that is most effective in creating a strategic long-term plan that you are looking to try to make sure that the information that is shared and the skills that are built during these trainings, that everyone has the same access to that information. So we would want to make sure that we're creating a common vocabulary around looking at issues of conflict and discrimination so that people are more comfortable discussing what it feels like and what it looks like to have an inclusive workplace. So it would be town-wide. The time frame would totally depend on the timing in terms of the funds that are available, who we're going to use. We've already had some conversations and looking at the priority, obviously, of starting with our department heads, and that we know that we have certain departments that as we look to roll out this training, that we feel that there might be more challenges in certain areas based on the data that we've already collected around concerns with employee relations. So over the years, we have cases and we've had investigations on complaints. So we know that communication has been challenged in some areas. So we want to make sure that we hit all of them. So we have enough data and information to make sure that we are strategic in what we're doing. We can't speak to anything with the police department. Ken might want to talk to that, but traditionally we roll out programs that go throughout all the town departments, but we are not looking at programs that are specifically designed for police only. They usually do their own.
Yes, I had conversations with the police chief, Councilman Farmer, about the police accountability law. And we had decided at that time that he was going to put funding in his budget for several of the items and I know there was in flux, some of the legislation as to what was going to be finally approved, but those funds were going to come from his department's budget line items. And it did include drug testing and a couple of the other things that you mentioned. There is some equipment involved as well, but that's not something that we have in our budget this year.
Through you, Chairwoman, just a follow-up question, because I know for new hires, testing and such equipment does fall under your department's purview, Director Kelly. So do we have to worry about any other additional testing or any other additional resources in that respect through you, Chairwoman?
To the best of my knowledge, Councilman Farmer, we do not. We will still continue to do our pre-employment physicals as we have done in the past.
Thank you. Those are all my questions. I appreciate y'all's patience and understanding. So thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bonadies.
Thank you. So my questions are around current education. What so-called, well, what training is required? And I mean by like discrimination training or sexual harassment training in the workplace currently. What current programs or what specific trainings do we have now?
Currently, we provide the sexual harassment training, and that is definitely a requirement that we are complying with. Actually, Governor Lamont actually extended the deadline until April, the end of April, and we are actually in the process of doing that right now. And it used to be that you were able to provide that training and it was mandatory for only your supervisors, but they actually, with the Me Too movement, have extended that to all employees are required to have that 2-hour session. So we are doing that for all employees, and that is the requirement that we've actually worked under that same guideline. We tried to do all employees even when it wasn't required, but now that it is, we're making sure that all employees have that. We have recommended all along that we continue to do understanding workplace cultural competence. That is something that we have done in the past. And again, it was limited funding, so we haven't repeated it. So we'd like to do that again. Again, not required by law. What we do with our EEOC is to make sure that we are doing our due diligence in terms of timely investigations of complaints. So we make sure that, again, as we develop a long-term plan, that we would have additional components that we would like to provide that would support our ability to make sure that our supervisors and our employees understand why we're doing these trainings and what is the value to our workplace. And again, it supports the fact that we are trying to move into an area of a workplace that accurately reflects the demographics of Hamden. So in order to do that, we just don't want to do recruitment, but we want to make sure we focus on retention.
Thank you. So that was my second question is this training required by law? And then, so far, you just said the sexual harassment. There's no discrimination or anything like that. It's just sexual harassment.
Exactly.
Okay, so this new program would encompass discrimination, anti-racist, anti-bias training.
Correct.
Okay. And is it mandatory all employees will have to attend a session? Or
Correct.
program it is? Unless, otherwise they would be terminated from employment?
We've never had a situation where we terminated an employee who was unwilling to participate in a training. That's a part of why this is so important, is because the value of the training is understanding that we have these different perspectives based on our cultural background and our experiences. And we find that we're able to have fewer conflicts and more of an understanding among our employees when they understand the value. So it's all about how we roll it out. Our supervisors will begin to help us to be able to validate why this is so important. Again, we have in the last 5 years seen an increase in the cultural mix of our employees, and that's why this has become even more of an issue. As we look at our community, we talk about the value. So we haven't had the kind of pushback that would put us in that place where we would have to determine if an employee who didn't want to attend the training, what will be the consequence. But I will tell you, we have had a lot of support and a lot of encouragement from our unions. They want this because they would prefer to see this than the grievances and then to go to Wethersfield and have to pay the lawyers that have to go when in fact we have to have those situations where we're trying to settle those kinds of disputes. So I believe that the unions will help us to encourage the employees, and they usually do take a stand to say when they feel that employees should participate in these trainings.
Okay, I think that's good. It's proactive, and if it avoids extended lawsuits and settlements to the town, I think it's probably a great investment. I just hope that it goes both ways, because it really takes two people to get along and to respect each other. It needs to go both ways on how we all can get along. And I hope that's the way that this goes. I am going to support it. I have concerns when I hear words like common vocabulary, because it just feels like that's an infringement on free speech, that the road I don't want to go down. So I'm cautious when I hear things like that, but I am going to support this. I hope that this is a good program and that it's well vetted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Bonadies. Counselor Shoemaker.
Thank you. I'm very excited that you want to bring this forward. I think it's overdue and important. And I had some of the same questions as my colleague from the 9th District. What I would like to know is, wow, there's some background noise somewhere. I'm sorry, that's distracting. That's better. Thank you, wherever that was.
Counselor Shoemaker, you're muted.
How do you plan to keep the training on a sustainable footing once it's been delivered? In other words, new employees get hired, people leave, and assuming that we have some success with, and I'm not bothered by the shared vocabulary, because I think part of it is an agreement that will say certain things if we take offense or something like that. It's more like having clear signals about what we might be experiencing, and we need to have a way to communicate it to other people. I understand that as a woman sometimes with sexism interactions, but so I assume that the shared vocabulary is sort of geared that way. But how will new employees be acculturated or incorporated? It seems like there will have to be some sort of process for that. What are your thoughts about that, please? Through you, Madam Chair.
I will say that we have the opportunity to make sure that we can provide training in small groups as new employees are hired. And we have done such. Because we have not had a budget to do specific training for town-wide topics such as diversity and inclusion and bullying and all of the things that we talk about, I have to say our new employees have had the opportunity to talk about these things because I do it as a part of our orientation. So if I have 3 or 4 employees, I'm able to provide that training. I actually have enough information to be able to make sure that they understand not only our guidelines, what the laws are, but to also provide them with information on understanding the impact of these same issues. So small group training for new employees is something that we do as a part of our orientation.
Great.
As I said before, I was hired for consulting and training for the town initially. So this is something that I'm comfortable with. I'm a national trainer for the Anti-Defamation League currently. So this is something that I do. I've done it for other municipalities town-wide for over 3,000 employees. And I've also done it for the state of Connecticut when diversity training became mandatory 10 years ago. So I have done that through agencies throughout the state. So I actually understand how to not only do it, but also how to maintain the interactions with employees so that they are comfortable. And that's why it's so important to have a process for reporting, to keep a rapport so that we can be in front of these types of issues instead of on the other side where people are filing lawsuits.
Wow, thank you for that. That's a remarkable response to my question, and thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Counselor Shoemaker. Counselor Caesar.
Thank you very much. I will wholeheartedly support this. I think it's definitely time. Should have been done 5 years ago, as far as I'm concerned. I think it's smart in terms of protecting our workforce and also training our workforce for the clientele and the people that they deal with daily. Making sure that obviously we respect each other and have those types of understanding is very important. So I'll support it 100%. My question is, are there any grants that could be filed for this to try to get funding from organizations or state or whatever it may be that may be able to help fund this in the future, or is it just strictly coming from our budget?
That is something that we could explore, but at this point in time, I wouldn't say that there are grants available for this type of work right now that I know of. And I do believe that many times there are grants available under education. So in the school systems, clearly that has been, I've done workshops under bullying and looking at issues that allow students to come to school and to feel safe. I believe that we can explore that. And I think that that is something that is worthwhile, but I would have to say that I can't see that being a source to initially support this initiative.
Thank you very much. And will all departments, public works, fire, police, all of them be going through this, or will it be just certain ones?
No, all departments.
All departments.
What about supervisors and directors and so on and so forth? The whole entire department?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Caesar. Counselor Farmer.
Thank you, Chairwoman. First, just to thank Ms. Cogswell and Director Kelly for their stewardship on these matters and constant pushing to get us to this point. I guess my second question is more just to flag it for us, is to think about, and part of this is a question, but more this is a sentiment. What costs do we have to factor into our budget moving forward to do this type of training and to keep up to date? And if unions are enthusiastic about this, where can we partner to doing continual education? As we know that, things change all the time, and the common language 10 years ago has changed, and 3 years from now it's going to change again. So how are we partnering with our union community members to stay up to date? And also, what commitments do we have to make fiscally to have that insight. Obviously, we'd love to be on the cutting edge of everything, but our finances don't always allow for that. So more of a sentiment, but if there is an idea of continuing costs, if the department would like to share with us, great. But all in all, thank y'all for the work that you do and mitigating the fiscal liabilities by not taking on such training and taking on such issues. Through you, Chairwoman.
I would have to say that we'd have to look into what that would be. I couldn't say a dollar amount at this moment in terms of what we would need going forward, but we would definitely take that into consideration with whoever we're working with, that we would want to get an estimate that would include long-term commitments and therefore hopefully be a lower cost because we would be engaging in something that we would want to continue the work. And I also believe that we, again, have opportunities through online trainings that can allow people to continue that professional development. So we would look at costs for that as well. So it doesn't all have to be the kind of training that we would start with, but we would be able to do that and have modules that would allow departments and employees to go and do that kind of a self-testing and self-education online.
Thank you, Ms. Cogswell. Councillor Farmer, did you have more questions at this time?
No, thank you, Chairwoman, for the opportunity.
Okay, Councillor Weber.
Through you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to speak. I want to, through you, Councilwoman Horsley, give Director Kelly and Ms. Cogswell accommodation. This is like much needed. This is probably well overdue. And I also want to give our legislative council members who said they would support this accommodation as well. And I don't want to be redundant. And that's why I'm using accommodation. But Austin, Councilman Caesar, and everyone who spoke in favor pretty much summed it up and said it best. You speak about a long-term and short-term goal of moving Hamden in a direction that better represents our community, but also there's a fiscal responsibility as well. And I think you spoke to it, i.e. retention. I can only imagine how much it costs to have to lose people, advertise, get people in, retrain them, and then try to hold on to them. And so I'm sure that that's going to save the town, money. And also, the sensitivities around grievances and lawsuits absolutely will save us money. And so I certainly appreciate your efforts and all that you have done. And I look forward to supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Weber. Any further comments on the amendment? President McGarry.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to keep it very brief and just say I concur with what Councillor Weber just said and my other council people. Thank you, Mr. Kelly and Ms. Cogswell for making this initiative, and it's a good step in a good direction. So thank you.
Excellent. Any further questions on the amendment? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the amended line at $25,000 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none. Any abstentions? Excellent.
I'm sorry, point of, can we clarify that we were adding 25,000 to the existing 1,500 because there were some other training needs in the line?
Yes, I'm sorry. I probably missaid that.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion on expenses for the personnel department? President McGarry.
Thank you, Councilor Horsley. The one thing, you know, as we were speaking, and Councilor Weber, and before Ms. Cogswell mentioned, you know, the short-term and long-term plans. And it sounds like, you know, we are developing a very good long-term plan. I'm wondering if, is there a line item or is there something we could do to help with recruitment in the near term? You know, is there anything we could do to say like, okay, we can reach out more to increase the diversity of our workforce, you know, in a more immediate future? Is there any, like, do something with that?
Well, I think that in the budget, we have very small amount that has been requested because we have kept it to a minimum. And I have to say, we haven't had a large number of vacant positions to actually hire for, so it worked out. But we would like to, going forward, make sure that we have a presence in diverse parts of our community to make sure that our recruitment efforts do reflect a diverse population. And with that in mind, we have been asked on other occasions to participate in, say, job fairs, where we haven't done that in the past. We also want to make sure that if there are professional organizations, trade organizations, civic organizations, we would like to be able to participate, and each of them come with some level of cost. So the existing amount that we've requested for advertising is just to continue to do what we've always done. If we wanted to reach out to do more, we'd have to increase that by whatever amount you think is reasonable. But just so you know that we have been doing our recruitments by posting with CCMA. We do CCMA, and we do our recruiting through Indeed. And we do get good results, but we would like to be able to move out even further and do other things, because we have been told that obviously the more people that have that access, then the more opportunities we have to expand on those applications.
Thank you. For purposes of discussion, I'd like to make a motion to increase the advertising line 0510 by $5,000 to $6,500.
I'll second that.
So that's on the table now, Ms. Cogswell. I'm not sure, does that sound reasonable if you mentioned, you know, memberships in various organizations? What's the cost? Do you have a kind of round number of the cost of that, or?
No, but we can work within whatever budget you are able to identify is appropriate at this time. We've turned down a number of memberships to various groups and organizations because the membership could be anywhere from $250 to $1,000, and we couldn't participate in those because we didn't have the funds. So obviously, with those dollars, we would be able to join maybe 4 organizations that would expand our presence in such a way that we could again expand on our recruitment process.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the amendment? Counselor Wetmore.
Thank you. I think it's a good idea, but I think, have you ever thought of having a town recruitment fair? I mean, that's the people we'd like is our Hamden residents and taxpayers to be involved. And if they have to pay to get in, I think if we did a free recruitment here, job fair, it might work out well. It's definitely worth a try.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the amendment? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of increasing this line to $6,500?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I see 2 opposed. Do you have those, Ms. Renta?
I have those, thank you.
Great. And any abstentions? Okay, thank you. So that passes. Any further discussion on the expenses for the personnel department? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote on the expenses as amended. Oh, can I have a motion to, I think I need a motion first.
So moved.
By Counselor Farmer. Do I have a second?
Second.
President McGarry. Okay, all those in favor of the expenses as amended,
Aye.
indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that completes the personnel department. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Cogswell and Mr. Kelly for being here and bringing your expertise to Hamden.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coswell. Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Thank
You're
you
welcome.
both.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
As well. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Much appreciated.
And we have 4 extra minutes.
Wow.
That's
It's a
that's
boon.
exciting. Next is fire, and that is on page 71 of our budget books. And Mr. Weber will be leading us in our discussion of the fire department.
All right. Hello, everybody again. This will start the section on fire. Before we get started in our deliberations, I would like to open it up to Chief Merweave for any discussion that you might want to have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. When I appeared before you 3 weeks ago, I gave you a impassioned 14-minute speech. I see my wife's logged in under attendees, and I'm not going to do that again because I know she doesn't want to hear it. So I'll save all you. I'll save all you from that. I will say that a couple of topics I'd like to just touch on tonight. Through the chairs and revenue. I'm going to ask you to take a look at the memo that I sent you on Thursday or Friday last week for your consideration. I'm going to ask for a small reduction in one of the lines that was my fault, which was a typo entry, and I'd like to review that. Ms. Renta, if I can have screen share ability at some point, it might that might be helpful.
Let me see if I can do it. President McGarry looked like he stepped away.
I did it. You should have it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Under positions, I'm advocating again strongly that you do not leave vacancies on the fire department. I urge you to resist the groupthink that leaving vacancies saves money, because it does not. We can talk about that more in depth if you'd like to. Under expenses, under former budgets, we've moved some items from capital into operations where they rightly belong. I'm going to be bringing fire hose out of capital and bringing it into operations, so we have a rolling supply line of fire hose replacement over time, instead of having to do large capital expenditures. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about if, once the opportunity presents itself, adding a significant amount to our maintenance account, because in the last 3 fiscal years, we've experienced large catastrophic mechanical failures, which has caused stress, special meetings, and scrambling for funding to repair fire apparatus. We do need to move, as the finance director said in a former meeting, at the speed of business. And that does not mean that I have an open checkbook and just can, decide to write a check, but we've had a couple of catastrophic diesel failures. We've had to repower the tower and engine 2. If past experience is any indication of future performance, as they say in the mutual fund game, we should probably prepare for that. I'd also like to advocate the changeover to ESO, which is a software program which is going to greatly improve fire department efficiencies. Let us get off of programs that have been in place since 1998, SQL-based programs that run on servers, if you can believe it, and our training platforms. So those are really, in air quotes, my agenda items. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. I'd like to entertain a motion to discuss revenues, right?
Moved.
So moved. Second.
Approved and properly second. Discussion.
For everybody's, the ease of discussion, if it's all right, Mr. Chair, I'm going to share my screen.
Sure.
Let me see here. This should have been the memo that went out and you should have received in your email Thursday or Friday. These are the revenue accounts for the fire department. There's 5 of them. And this memo outlines one of the ways that I estimate revenue coming in. I look back at former fiscal years, take a look at an average, and then make a determination as to where we're going to be headed. Under paramedic assist, I'm very sure that we're going to beat our target this year. I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to keep improving, especially if you approve the ESO package that I've asked for. Under this item here, which is QU-EMT coverage, I believe this is 10325 2501. Where is that? 2501. Yes, we need to move this down to 39,000. The current 59,000 is an incorrect calculation, and that's on my part, and that carried through the process.
Just as a point of clarification, that's 2504, right?
Is it? 2504. Yep, there it is. Yep, right here.
2501 is code enforcement.
Well, yep. So I'm taking a look at this. The account bills out the same for code enforcement and for QU-EMT. So it bills out at $61.62 an hour, and we collect in at $77.03 an hour. When I say we, I mean the finance department.
So that 31,891, that's the correct, that's what it should be?
The projection should be 39,000 instead of 59,000, which is what I believe is in your budget book.
Okay, thank you.
Any discussion? Recognize Councilwoman Bonadies.
Thank you very much, Chairman Weber. Thank you, Chief Merweed, for being here and laying everything out like you always do with such clarity. Could you just repeat the two, you said you billed out at 6102.
So the two accounts, code enforcement and QUEMT, are directly related to the expense account, which is code enforcement. So we have to perform the work in order to be able to bill for the work, right? So because this goes according to the CBA, we bill out, we pay our employee $61 an hour, and then we collect 25% over that. When I say we, I mean the finance department collects 25% over that coming back in.
Okay. Okay. And so that was the 7703. Okay. That's clear to
Correct.
me. Thank you. And how many years now have you had the paramedic assist reimbursement? It's
We've had it. Well, we had an informal agreement with AMR for 8 or 9 years, or actually maybe more like 10 or 12. And then we advocated to move over to LifeQuest, which is a billing service. So if you look at the actuals going back in previous years, it fluctuated way too much for my comfort level, and my predecessor, Chief Baradesca, it fluctuated way too much. We needed to get a better handle on the way revenue was being collected under this line and to have a steady accounting of that process. That's why we wanted to go to a third-party billing agency where they would have to report back to us on a monthly basis, and we could see a steady stream, because it would be almost in, if I can go, I'll go back to sharing screen. Hang on one second. Find it. So if you take a look here under the paramedic assistance reimbursement, if you take a look at fiscal year 15 and 16, take a look at the difference between revenues coming in, and then take a look at 18, and then back down to 19. This inconsistency is untenable if you're trying to make actual good, clear recommendations to an administration or a legislative body. So by going to the third-party billing, they actually reported revenue back to us on a steady basis that's predictable. And you can see what our weekly average is here, right? So, you know, my prediction for fiscal 22 we should end up at about 155 because it's predictable.
okay. I see that. But those numbers from earlier were much higher. Is there in earlier years?
It wasn't. 2020 was 158. To date in 2021, where of course this memo is a little bit old now, we were at 119, and we still have 12 fiscal weeks to go when this memo was written.
Okay,
right?
so
The
our
highest
billing
year
is
before,
improved.
the highest year before that was 2018. We were at 132, and that was an
Okay.
anomaly. And that's kind of what spurred the conversation why we needed to go to another company.
Okay, so that's improved. That's that line. And then do you think you could, the permits, the 103252507 permits and licenses, the numbers, 8,500 year to date, 4,700, and then we jumped to 25,000? Is that
Yeah.
achievable?
I certainly hope so, because if you take a look at the 6-year average minus the two COVID years, right? Minus the 2 COVID years, we were at 20,000, 26,000, 22,000.
All right.
Right.
Hopefully we're
Yeah. So I think
slump.
they're clearly the same amount of projects did not happen at the end of last fiscal year when the state of Connecticut was shut down, and the beginning of this, beginning of the current fiscal year.
Okay, let's hope we're climbing out of that slump then. Thank you.
I certainly hope so, for more than one reason.
All right, any other questions? You all set? All right, we'll move on to at-large, Councilman McDowell.
Thank you. And thank you, Chief, especially for walking us through that memo. I'm going to make a motion to reduce that line. However, before I do that, I wanted to ask you about paramedic assist reimbursement, 2502. Looks like you're just from what we have on our budget book here, the department request is 155,000.
Yep.
The mayor moved that up to 185,000. And I was just curious if there was any conversation there, if there was any insight that we could be provided from either you or Director Jackson on what may have gone into that shift and what the thought there was.
Well, I mean, I'll speak to it and then I can turn it over to the finance director if you'd like to add to that. Is okay, Scott? So, optimism is a good thing. And I like to see actuals come in and, I pitched the new software to the administration, which I'm happy that they supported. Now, part of the new software, and we can get into this under expenses when we get there, but part of the new software is it's the parent company for software that we're already using that's becoming obsolete. But one of the great facets of this is it's going to be able to connect us directly to Yale New Haven Hospital and St. Raphael's, which is going to be excellent for patient outcomes, exchanging information, everything that has to do with our risk exposure for paramedics have needle sticks, during COVID or, exposure to tuberculosis and all the things that happen to us on more or less a daily basis. But one of the things that also lets us access are the health insurance information. Mm-hmm. So many times we're not able to capture that information on an emergency scene. We're a soft billing agency, which means that we send out a bill through our third party. We request that the taxpayer submits it to their insurance company, but if they do not, it simply slides off the books. Taxpayers already have a high burden in this town. We're asking to offset our expenses by having them submit the bills. And if we have that information, in theory, we'll be collecting more money. I don't know if that's totally why they anticipated a little bit more, but it was probably due to part of my presentation.
Sure. So I'm sorry, Director Jackson, before you pitch in, to clarify, obviously as it stands now, residents are, sort of personally responsible for submitting it to their insurance. And if they don't, we don't see that reimbursement. New system means we get the insurance information from the hospital. We'll be able to sort of automate some of that process. That makes sense. My question is, for your 155 recommendation, what did you consider the new system at all, or it's just exclusively based on what we've been doing in the actuals of the past 5 years or 6 years?
That's exactly right. So
okay.
mine is based on actuals because
okay.
I'm very sure that I can achieve this. When we pitched the third party billing to you, we wanted to do the same thing. We said we want to see what we can actually collect, and that's what we're going to project as our revenue moving forward. I think it's fair to say we're going to do better, but I can't measure how much better until I see a couple of years or at least a couple of months of experience. And if you do pass that new system tonight, it's going to take a while for us to build it out, right? We're not going to be able to start at July 1st.
How long what's the ETA on that?
4 to 5 months before it's up and running, because we haven't contracted with them. They can't build it yet.
So half a year. Okay. We'll have income from half the year. Director Jackson, did you have anything from your end on that?
No, I cannot say anything more perfectly than the chief just did.
I guess my question would be then how you all came up with like the 30,000 number. Is there some mechanism that you use to get down to that 30,000, and why you might be able to expect that from 6 or 7 months of the new system?
Just a proportional increase based upon the capacity of a new system.
Okay. All right. I'm going to leave that one alone for now. I was going to make the motion on line 2504, but I see that President McGarry has his hand up, and I don't want to interrupt his.
Well, thank you for your consideration, Councilman McDowell. It was the same exact same motion. So go right ahead.
Sure. I'll make the motion to reduce line 2504 to $39,000 even.
Second.
All right. So we have discussion on the motion? All right, it's open. Mr. McDowell.
As the maker of the motion, I guess I'll just speak to it. I think Chief laid it out. His numbers are obviously based on actuals, and I'm glad we're able to make a more honest revenue projection out of this. So thank you, Chief, for bringing that to us.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion on the motion? The amended motion. All right, I'll call for vote. Single line. Objections? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. All right. So we still have to make a vote on the revenues. I'm sorry,
The revenues, if there's no more discussion on the revenues line, we could look at the revenues as amended.
All right.
Or approve the revenues as amended.
So moved.
All right, second. I'll second it. Okay, so we want to take a vote or have additional discussion?
Yeah, if there's any discussion.
Any additional discussion? Like to take a vote? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
That looks like everybody. Okay. Any nays? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. All right, so I think that closes out the revenues. I'd like to entertain a motion to make a motion on positions, discuss positions.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right. I'm sorry, who seconded that?
I believe Councilwoman Baez.
Yes. All right. All right. All right. All right, any discussion? Any discussion?
Councilman Farmer has his hand up.
I'm sorry, Councilman Farmer would like to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. Through you to the chief. Is there, how many firefighters do we have, or fire personnel rather, do we have out on injury?
I'm sorry, it dropped off. What was?
I said through you, Chairman, to the chief, how many personnel in the fire department do we have out on injury?
Right now, I've got 3 on long-term injury and 3 on medical leave. 2 of them are long-term.
And just a follow-up to that, I'm sure there's people who are eligible to retire, so on and so forth. Do we expect to be hiring more firefighters due to injury or potentiality of retirement? Through you, Chairman.
And so we can't hire to replace an injured firefighter until either they retire or they come back to work and finish out their careers. So their positions are held, their salaries are paid, and that's handled through workers' compensation. The same for long-term medical leave. The problem is exacerbated if vacancies are left on the department, because each vacancy creates 2,184 hours that has to be filled, which is why, I want you to resist the thought that if we don't fill those positions, that it saves money, because the entry-level people coming in make on average $17,000 a year less than the people we hire back to replace them. They don't have any vacation leave, they don't have any personal leave, and they haven't accumulated any sick time. Basically, they're enthusiastic and they come to work, which is a good thing. The other thing is, if you leave vacancies, you increase the risk potential to the rest of the people that are here. And I can make a pretty simple analogy. If you had to take 10 boxes and move the boxes from one mountaintop to the other, and you had 10 people to do it, even though the way may be treacherous, it's known and you can train for it, and the risk is absorbed evenly over 10 people. If you decide that you want to fund for 8 people, that means that the risk is 10 boxes still have to be moved. Those are the calls that we do every day, because we do between 26 and 30 calls a day, right? So the risk is spread over a smaller pool, right? And so if that smaller pool becomes ill or injured, it exacerbates the problem, drives up your substrate, which eventually people get tired of working 65 hours a week. They start to say no, fewer people start to say yes, and your FLSA time kicks in, which is your Garcia payment. So you don't actually end up saving.
If you don't mind, Chairman, through you to the fire chief, if we continue to have injuries, at what point, what happens if we have too many people who are injured? How do we mitigate? God forbid, I hope that we are never in such a position. But what would we do as a fire department? Through you, Chairman.
So, we've been very fortunate, throughout the years, and thank you for knocking on wood, that we haven't had a large portion out injured, right? And people actively want to get back to work, which is a very good thing. And so we've got a very good relationship with our comp carrier PMA. They've got work hardening programs, occupational health programs. And, the last contract we were able to negotiate in light duty, where the firefighters can come back and still be productive, but not be on the line fighting fires. And so we use them in the training department. Mostly it ends up being in training, in the training department, to assist the training officer as needed. And so we've been able to get back people, which is exactly what we want to do. It's rare that we need to retire somebody on injury. And I'd like to keep it that way.
Just a follow-up. So what would say be our contingency plan if such a event to ever happen? How, because I don't foresee us saying, to our department, hey, everyone works 65-hour shifts. But how would we mitigate that? What would be our plan if, say, people were injured for several months? Like, how would we move forward, if that makes sense? Through you, Chairman.
So, well, what we do now is we hire them back at the lowest possible rate, which is straight time. So we're hiring in replacements at straight time. Most of the surrounding departments pay overtime for that. So you're already at the lowest possible pay rate to do that. And we've been able to absorb injury by paying substrate and having people come in while the injured person is out. And that list rotates. It's not the same person all the time. It's an automatic rotating list. It doesn't even go by seniority. And so we've been able to absorb long-term injuries, but it's better to absorb that from a full department than from a department that's already short-staffed. I don't know if that goes to your question.
No, I think it was very helpful and informative. So I see some of my other colleagues have their hands up. If anything, I'll follow up. But thank you, Chief. Through you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Farmer from the 5th District. Chief, I want to give you opportunity to speak about anything else as it relates to personnel. Or should I just entertain additional questions? I didn't give you a chance before we open it up for discussion.
No, basically, I'd really like to have all the positions funded. And so when opportunities come up, you know, at the fire academy, we can make appropriate arrangements to, you know, to get people into the academy, right? Which is what we want to do. We don't want to miss our opportunity because we don't have the funding to send somebody there. You know, it would be, you know, a little bit easier, you know, from a management perspective, if I knew how many people were going to retire in advance. We've got 28 people that are eligible now. I don't expect everybody to go at the same time. People generally leave when it's in their own best interest and the best interest of the family. But we have to plan to be able to get people into the academy if people decide to go, right? So, so that's the reason I want the, you know, to keep the positions full, keep the positions funded. So if we do have unexpected retirements or even expected retirements, that we can get on the next academy list and send the people there.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilwoman from the 6th District, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, through you, I would like to ask the chief. We're having a robust conversation about diversifying our employees in Hamden, and would like to know through you if the chief would like to report to us on efforts to diversify the staff in the fire department, please.
Sure, it's a good question, and thank you. And this is why I included it in my original 20-page budget package that you received in late March. If I can see the, hang on one second here, if I can see the page 17. I'll do a share screen in a second here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the budget, part of the budget package that you received last month, which may go to your question. So this is what the fire department looks like right now. Our diversity right now. And it describes the way our hiring practices have been since 2006. This graph right here is the pool that we draw from, which are people that hold EMT certifications or paramedic certifications. And you'll notice that these two charts are very similar. Because if we're drawing from this hiring pool for people that hold medical certifications, remember, 68% of what we do has a medical component to it. If that's the pool that we're constantly drawing from, then this is the result that we're going to have, which is right here.
Understood.
Okay, so this goes directly to funding. If we have under the past system, if we had a paramedic that's a certified paramedic and it's been and has already been to the fire academy, it costs us $65,000 to put that person on the job. If they're an EMT and they've been to the fire academy, it's $63,000. And that's a stipend difference in the collective bargaining agreement. If you have no certifications and it's an entry-level position, that's $113,000, because then we have to pay for the medical training, pay them to go, and then pay to replace them in the firehouse. So when you talk about what the planning is for the future, the planning is to change the bottom graph. The planning is to encourage people to seek the basic certifications that are needed to come onto the job. And there's a couple ways that we're actively doing that right now. One was an amendment that you passed back in February for a scholarship to send a graduating high school senior of color to Yale University to receive their EMT certification in an 8-week condensed program. And we're going to assist that person through the process, do the mentoring that we ought to do, and then assist them looking for a job potentially with AMR right away. The second part of the plan is to partner with Hamden High School. And we're doing that with this year. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Karen Kaplan, works for the Board of Ed in program development. But we've worked closely with her and with the administration at the high school to develop a program. The acronym, the working acronym right now is CHESS, which is Community Health Emergency Services and Science Program. The program is going to be proportionally weighted. That's going to be done by the high school. But these are students that will receive instructions from firefighters and interaction with firefighters during their year as they learn about community health and science. And they're also going to graduate high school with an EMT certification, right? And so this creates more opportunity, not just for the fire department and not just for the Hamden Fire Department, but to talk about the possibility of entering into this, career path as a whole. And those things are very important. I think awareness of what it takes is the first step. And then, helping people through the process is the second step. The final step will be to say, we're not going to require you to go to the fire academy or ask for lateral transfers from other fire departments. Hiring people from Hamden, is preferable. And listen, I've lived my entire life here. It's a great place to be. I'm very fortunate to work in this fire department, but I had to test for 5 years before I got hired. It's an extremely competitive process. And if you can get to the students at a young level and inspire them and say, these are the steps that you need to take, hopefully that process is shorter for them. I don't know if that answers your question.
That's very, very helpful and thorough. Thank you. And Mr. Chair, I'm complete with that conversation. No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I thought I saw Councilman Austin's hand raised.
It was, but it got answered in the chief's conversation.
Fantastic. Okay. Moving forward, we're gonna go back to Councilman from the 5th. Councilman Farmer.
Thank you, Chairman. Through you, Chairman, to the chief. I guess I have a couple of questions. One being, what is the age for an individual to become a fire person? The second question being, how many individuals did we have do continuing education, whether it be go to paramedic school or other programs to further the education on our fire department? And the third question is, the majority of applicants for our fire department, are there particular schools that they go to before coming to our town? Through you, Chairman.
So I'm going to try to remember all those so I can be as complete answer as possible. I'll do the last one first. We don't send people to paramedic school anymore. The price is just too exorbitant. On average, it'll cost about $20,000 to get that certification. It's available through Yale Center for EMS. You can get it through the University of New Haven. There are actually a bunch of institutions in Connecticut that offer that training. So we no longer send people there. When the fire department was just becoming a paramedic organization back in 1976, that was the way that it was done. But the cost, of course, was a whole lot less, and the instruction wasn't nearly as rigorous as what goes on today. As far as the other part of your question, what certifications do people hold? We've had as a requirement to come on the fire department for the last 20 years, the basic certification of EMT. 68% of what you're going to be doing when you get here has that component to it, right? And so that's that and a driver's license. And when you are 18 years old, you can hold both of those certifications.
So thank you, Chief. You answered all the questions except for one, being in terms of training. Is there particular schools or particular places that firefighters are trained that we draw from that pool through you, Chairman?
Well, I mentioned a couple, the Yale Center for EMS. That's the school right down in New Haven. As far as the paramedic programs, Yale Center for EMS, University of New Haven. I think New Britain has a paramedic program. And frankly, paramedics tend to come to us from commercial ambulance services. So they're working as a paramedic already, and they're going to apply from a commercial ambulance service to come here.
Thank you. I extend this to every department. I am happy to knock doors, go to the community, go where people are, and walk hand in hand to make sure that individuals are getting the opportunity to serve their community and also retain some of that wealth and pump it back into our communities first in need. I love the partnership y'all are thinking with high school students, but there are plenty of people who are in the age range now who we could put in the pipeline or start to get them to train to do these things. So I don't know what the answer is, but equity is part of that. And because some of these communities have been disenfranchised generationally, we're probably going to have to figure out other money streams to get people into the pipeline. So I'm happy and willing to partner with every department and any department to do that, and look forward to talking more offline through you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Farmer. Chief, I'll just throw myself quickly on. I want to just first of all thank you for all the great work that you do in our communities, keeping our citizens safe and protected. I certainly appreciate the thoughtfulness around some of the diversity. I want to just hone in just a little bit around gender and more women on the force. And I know you kind of answered the question, but I'd like to make a suggestion that we recruit from the military. I think that the military has opportunities for women who already have a lot of the certifications and possess a lot of the qualities that we look for in firefighters here in Hamden.
I have to say, I agree. Military people tend to be very physically fit. And they're already in training mode, which of course, we like, especially in the fire department. The good thing for military folks coming to Hamden is civil service actually awards points for military service. And that's very desirable if you're trying to do well on a civil service list. So I would 100% support that. I think it's a great idea.
All right, thank you again, Chief. Any other discussion before we take a vote on the personnel budget? All right. Are you okay? I see hands popping up now. All righty. Ms. Bias. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Bias.
I think Bonity's put her hand up before me and I just got to my button faster.
I don't know why I don't see any hands up. Okay, Ms. Bonity's, go right ahead. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Bonity's.
That's okay. That's okay. I meant to at the outset thank the entire fire department, our first responders, for having probably one of the toughest years in memory or in all of your service to the town of Hamden, and being on the front line and collecting people at their homes that just fell so ill from the virus and bringing them to the hospital. I just can't imagine I know the toll it took on many of your, rank and file that did get exposed to the virus and we're very sick. And I just want to say, just from the whole community, for myself, bottom of our heart, thank you so much for your service to Hamden.
Well, listen, I'll accept that for the firefighters, but frankly, I'm in awe of the dedication that we saw throughout this entire thing. They performed with valor, and there's no better way to say it. I mean, nobody signed up, for pandemic response, right? You get into this because you want to do specific things. Responding to calls while there's a worldwide pandemic going on, I don't think was on the list. It certainly wasn't on mine. And we never missed a day of service. We never missed a day of calls. We were very fortunate that through, aggressive quarantining and a good incident operation plan, we were able to keep the virus from spreading through the entire fire department. We had about 25% that got hit, but we were able to spread that over time. The weeks that we're in right now, it's a miracle in the place that we're in today. These weeks last year, we had more respiratory arrests and codes in 6 weeks than we did in the previous 6 months. So it was difficult. And then of course we added in the tornado and the hurricane just, for added effect. So kudos to the people that work here. I'm more or less a professional observer now, and I observe them doing a great job. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman Bonadies. Councilwoman Byers?
I was going to make a motion to reduce the fire chief salary to last year's budget to $125,000, as well as assistant fire chief budget line to $118,747.74.
I'll second for discussion.
For discussion.
All right, is there any discussion?
As the maker of the motion, I understand that the fire department has worked extremely hard in this past year. And that's, without the statistics, we know that's true. I feel like a super jerk to say this, that we want to put your salary back down $10,000. But again, we are still in a budget crisis in Hamden. And I'm not taking a hard line and giving you no raise, but a $10,000 raise for fire chief position, as well as a $6,000 raise for assistant fire chief position, I do believe deserves some discussion.
Chairman, do you mind?
I'm sorry?
Mind if I speak to the motion as the seconder?
Certainly.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that. I think we are on a tight budget, right? We all know that. We avoided walking off the cliff this year in many respects. I guess my questions on this are, one, is there any contractual agreements, and two, past practice? Because I know that the police and fire department often try to pair each other in terms of pay. So I just wanted to get clarity around that, because I also know that the police department is in negotiations, and items should be coming to us relatively soon. So just wanted to get clarity on those two things from the administration. Thank you, Chairman.
Anyone on administration want to speak to that?
I will speak to that. You are absolutely right, Councilor Farmer. We do try to maintain parity, and there are circumstances where individuals who are members of a bargaining unit could theoretically overstep the people above them. And based upon those those mathematical computations in both police and fire, the mayor felt that it was important to create that gap space. So that's why he moved in this direction.
Thank you for the clarification. Do you have additional questions, Councilman Farmer?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just to clarify, so this should also be reflected in the police department as well. And again, this is not a bargained thing. This is a practice through you, Chairman.
That is correct. So we're not there yet, but on page 160 of the budget book, you will see that the deputy chief positions land at 124, 157.
Thank you, Chairman. I will let discussion continue.
Councilwoman Gary, would you like to enter the discussion?
Yes, I just wanted to say that if we are planning to hire, that I agree with my colleagues that I would love to see some diversity, and I would love to see some diversity coming from people who live in the Hamden district. It would just be lovely. And I also wanted to say to the chief, on Christmas morning, I had to call the fire department because my sister was very sick and she had came home to stay with us. So her oxygen tank wasn't working. I wasn't aware of how to really work it. So we called the fire department. You guys were excellent. I mean, excellent, 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 excellent. I mean, you even calmed me down. And then that was Christmas morning. And then on January 10th, I had to call you guys again because her oxygen tank went out again. Unfortunately, she passed away that day. But again, a few of the same firemen that came on Christmas morning, they came on January 10th. And they were excellent again. They calmed us down. They just gave us so much comfort. And even though me and my sister felt that it was over, you know, my sister would no longer be with us. We've seen that. They comfort us so well. So I just wanted to say thank you to them. You know, thank you for just the support that they give the family in crisis, because it got to be difficult. They face these types of things every day, and even, you know, worse things. They see families going through stuff. So I just wanted to say thank you. And again, I want to see some diversity and definitely some people in Hamden hired on the fire department.
Thank you. And thank you very much for your comments. And on behalf of the fire department, I am so extremely sorry for your loss. And, you know, I'm happy that, you know, that our firefighters were able to respond, you know, with the empathy that you deserve and that I would expect from my family. So that's it.
Thank you so much.
Out of deference, Council President McGarry.
Thank you, Councilor Weber. One thing, I think, as Mr. Jackson noted, we have some issues in the budget in this department and some other departments where we have personnel, managerial personnel who are not receive contractual raises, can end up in the position of, you know, not being compensated more than the people they are supervising. And this is not ideal, obviously, for a number of reasons. So I would like to ask the administration, and Mr. Jackson sort of explained this very well. So I guess question one, Mr. Jackson, you know, I don't know if you have to get back to me on this, but how many years have non-contractual salaried employees gone without raises?
I cannot give you that answer. Sometimes, I mean, typically it's been onesie twosies. Oh, your deputy gets the contractual increase, so we'll build the gap back up. The last time that I can recollect there being a broad-based salary GWI wage increase for non-bargaining unit members was 2013.
Because it is an unfortunate fact also, of course, that with inflation, with rising insurance costs, a flat funded salary can be a decrease in overall earnings. And it is a difficulty, I think, that we have. We have to find a way to fix this problem. Some things that have been suggested are tying it to the supervisors union increases. I have some philosophical issues with that, in that, then you have a union that is bargaining on behalf of the people, supervising the union members. But we do need a solution to this problem. It's bad for morale, it's bad for recruitment, it's bad for retention. How are we supposed to keep, we have increasingly, we're getting a really great team on the administrative side, and we have to retain those people. And I do have worries about that. So while, this is one individual motion here, we also have issues across the board. I'm aware of department heads who are offered positions in other municipalities that pay better, and with the promise of future increases as well. So this is a microcosm of a greater problem that we have. So I certainly understand our budgetary issues, but I would also encourage and really ask the administration to deliver a decision-making framework for salaries and compensation for our non-unionized employees that can solve this problem long-term. Because while yes, we still need to be very careful with our budget. And I'd also be curious, I don't know if you have this number off the top of your head, Director Jackson, but how much money were you talking about if you added up all the increases in salary for non-unionized employees? What is that number in our budget book this year? For all the chiefs, whatever is in there.
Any non-contractual increase, Mr. President?
Right.
No, I don't have that, but I can put that together fairly easily.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine it's more than $50,000-$60,000.
I couldn't imagine.
Right. Okay. So I just, we need to be careful, but we also need to maintain our personnel. And we just hired on, or did we hire for planning and zoning, Mr. Jackson? I saw the announcement. I knew they were in negotiations, but this is
yes, we did. An acting planning and zoning director has been came on board yesterday.
Right. So we're getting talented people, and we got to keep talented people. So I'm really I asked the administration, please. It's not good for us to determine salaries because we're not there in the day-to-day. We're the legislative branch, the fiscal authority, not necessarily the executive branch making decisions on the day-to-day administration of the town business. It's kind of outside of our purview to judge how people are doing it and how they should be compensated. So it's a difficult thing for us because we have to balance what's in the best interest of the town while maintaining a good team. So I would like to see that, Mr. Jackson, if we could, some kind of decision-making framework so we can feel comfortable that our compensation packages are competitive, help with retention, and rewards, excellent performance. So having said all that, it's a big problem. So I'm not sure where I am yet on this particular motion because, balancing fiscal, we still have some issues in hand. On the other hand, we need to fix this problem. We can't expect our department heads not to receive salaries year after year after year, or salary increases, I should say. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President.
You're muted, Mr. Weber.
Thank you, Councilman McGarry, Council President McGarry. Councilman McDowell, I'd like to recognize you.
Thank you. So I had a question. It's sort of unrelated. It might be for Director Jackson, because it's tangential. When the current police chief was instated, there were requests not only for that salary, but there were also requests related to that stipend. In the budget, there were adjustments made to that stipend that, if my memory serves correct, meant that, and again, this is going off of memory, so this is why I'm asking you if you could clarify for me. To my memory, the police chief was making there was one salary that was $10,000 more, but then there was a stipend that was $10,000 more. That's not what I'm seeing in my budget. In my budget, I'm seeing both stipends listed at $15,000, not only for this year, but for the previous year. Now that's the stipend for the traffic director and the stipend for the emergency management director. Is there another stipend that I'm missing somewhere in there? Because I remember there being additional stipend funds that offset the difference in salaries. And I'm asking because I want clarity. I might be misremembering. It was a while ago.
Chairman, do you mind if I share a point of clarification?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Counselor, you are correct. Through you, Chairman. We did reduce that line by $10,000. So your recollection is not off. That is why there's parity between those two. Through you, Chairman. Thank you.
And that's exactly what I remember. But what I'm seeing right now is in our budget books, $15,000 for both stipends. So am I misremember? Was it a $10,000 increase proposal, and then we brought it back down, so it was never actually in the books? Is that what I'm misremembering?
I believe, Counselor, we reduced by $10,000. If I remember correct, I'm doing all this off of recollection as well. But I believe we reduced by 10,000, and then we bumped up because I think we cut one position by 10. We added one position. The position we raised by 10, and we cut a stipend by 10 for parity.
Right. I'm going to let conversation continue. Director, I wanted to put that in front of you. I know that you may have some catch up to do too, because obviously that was prior to you being here. I don't know if Mr. Galarza is available to us this evening, but I know he tends to have a sharp memory. I don't know if he's available, but he might be able to bring some context into this too. But I'm going to let conversation continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Director, would you like to respond or want to pass?
No, as Councilman McDowell said, not being here, and it's not reflected, those transactions are not reflected in the budget book. I would have to go back and review minutes and other things in order to come up with an answer that would meet my general standards of acceptability for being accurate.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate your diligence.
Thank you, Councilman. Out of deference, we're going to open the floor to Councilman Austin Caesar.
Thank you very much. I'm going to oppose this motion. I really think that the fire chief's done a phenomenal job, especially this last year, dealing with all the issues we've been dealing with. I think that I echo a lot of the same sentiments that Council President McGarry said. I think that definitely there has to be a way to address this in the future. It's a matter of parity for me, making sure that obviously the police chief and fire chief are on the same level. I think in terms of just a commitment to the town, I've had a chance to witness Chief Murweed as a fire commissioner and as a council person as well. And I just can't think of anybody more committed to this town and more dedicated to the cause than him. He's led this department through a very difficult time. He's led obviously countless situations of we all benefit by whenever a family member's hurt or in need or injured. It takes great leadership to make that happen, and he makes that happen. So I sleep well at night knowing that he's out there managing the department and making sure that everybody's protected. My own personal experiences and family members, whatever else it may be. We have a top-notch fire department. It's because of his leadership we do so. So in a matter of over $200 million budget, I really don't see a point in going there with this. I think, like I said, he definitely deserves it, and I'm going to support it. I'm not going to support this motion, though. Thank you.
Thank you so much, but Councilman Caesar. Councilwoman Shoemaker, would you like to be recognized?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we have been through this problem so many times during my tenure on council. So I've been looking back and forth between the police chief and deputy chiefs. And I think isn't part of the complication that one of the deputy chiefs of police is a union member and the other one is not. Thank you. So I do remember that correctly. So this is just an observation. If we were going to go for parity between the chiefs and the deputy chiefs in each of the Guardian Service departments, to my eye, the numbers would be $135,000 for the police chief and $124,157.78 for the fire chief, and the assistant fire chief would not be 125, it would be 124, 157.78, which is what it is in the police department. So I just wanted to lay that factoid out. And that is if we like the difference of about $14,000 between the top two positions. So I'm just trying to think this through. So I think we need to do something. I agree with President McGarry. I don't like that this ball gets bounced to that. I think we need a policy. I want to retain our excellent chiefs of Guardian Services, and I want that retention to be intentional. And I want us to be clear and upfront about how we deal with these pay increases at the levels below the chief and the deputy chief, and how we're going to manage that. But I'm just pointing out what I see in the numbers, and I don't have any questions. I'm musing, and I really don't want to support the amendment as presented because of what that would mean for the salary levels when we get to the police department. So that's what I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Dolan, would you like to be recognized?
Yes, thank you. So I actually don't have a concern for parity. I don't really care about that so much. And I do like to save every dollar I can in the budget. And when it comes to this line item, I think the best way to save money is to reward excellent service. This particular chief has done an excellent job by all accounts. I mean, everyone here seems to be thrilled with the level of service that he has given us. He did not get a raise in 2019. He did not get a raise in 2020. And here we are in 2021 discussing it yet again. And so I will not be supporting this. And I think we should pass along the raise and not so much worry about parity or anything else, just to recognize a job well done in difficult times and for years and years now. So those are my 2 cents on the subject.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Farmer, would you like to be recognized?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Through you, to counselor's point from the 8th, when Attorney Gruen brought this up, we had a study done on parity and so on and so forth. And that's not necessarily a thing that we can do. That, to the council president's point, this is up to leadership, right? The mayor has failed, and many mayors have failed. The mayor has failed to make a program that reflects good work, paying good work as respected. The only other thing I'd say, and I understand people's concerns and thoughts, but everywhere that we go, we see more and more people adding on extra responsibilities and not getting paid for it, doing extra work and not getting paid for it. I'm not a fan of that. Um, but we see that in the public and private sector. And I also would like to remind us that in these departments in particular, you have individuals who work under the heads who are eligible for overtime, which these department heads are not. So in some cases, you have individuals making $100,000 more than the department head. So I understand the concerns about morale, but I also want to put it in the terms and realms of reality that we already have individuals who are subservient, who work under department heads, who are paid handsomely more than the department heads that put in time, work, effort, who are on call 25/7. So we are in a tough budget situation. We are going to be. These are conversations that we need to have. I agree with Councilwoman Dolan's assessment, but also if we have a past practice, we have to flush that out. So I'm going to let conversation continue, but either we're going to reward good work or we're going to continue with parity or try to create parity. But we have to commit to one or the other. If the administration is not laying out a roadmap, we need to make that determination ourselves. Through you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Baez, would you like to be recognized?
Thank you. So I have heard a lot of information, and I want to say that I agree with both Dolan and Farmer and their statement that we do want to reward excellency, right? And I also agree that if there is extra duty, extra work that we're assigning folks, extra assignments and trust that we are putting into them, then we should be paying them properly. We should be paying for that extra work. I also do not care for parity. I do not like this parity thing that we've been doing historically, and I don't think it's a good practice. But that being said, I also do not want to vote to put down, bring down their salaries. So before Councilor Caesar put his hand up, I was going to say, we're probably ready for a vote, or I can pull this motion down because it looks like the majority is going to say no. But I don't want to silence my partner over here, Councilman Caesar. So I'm going to let him go.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Councilman Caesar, would you like to be recognized?
Yeah, I do appreciate that. Thank you very much, Councilperson Baez. I really appreciate your time there. I just wanted to say also that these chiefs also get no overtime. They're making obviously pay, and I'm sure they're working well beyond that. And I just wanted to say that like we said, we reward excellence, we reward a job well done. And I just want to make sure that we support that and we go that route. That's all I was going to say. So I appreciate letting me speak, Councilperson Baez. Thank you.
Okay, so should we allow you to remove your motion?
I think that's faster.
All
I'm
right.
removing it.
Is that
I'll remove my second.
All right, faster.
Council President, are we in order? All right. All right. So we're gonna remove the motion to reduce salaries. And do we have any additional discussion for the original motion? All right. We're going to take a vote. All in favor of passing?
Point of clarification, Chairman, are we voting on the salaries as a whole? And just for clarity, did we discuss the 3 positions?
No.
All righty. We did not.
Just a point of clarification, I believe the motion was to approve the positions.
Right.
That's still where we are.
So would we like to open back up for discussion?
No, I'll let us go along with a vote, but I'd like a roll call vote, if possible, Chairman.
All right, point of clarification, so we are not working on the amendment to reduce salary, is that correct?
That has been removed.
Thank you.
Withdrawn, I should say. Councilor Farmer, I couldn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Through you, Chairman, to the council president, I said, seeing that we did not discuss the additions to the fire department, if we're just going to vote, I would like a roll call vote. Through you, Chairman.
Okay. We're gonna do a roll call vote on the positions. Ms. Renta?
Okay, 1 second.
A point of clarification while the clerk is preparing. There are no amendments, right? These are the positions as proposed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Austin,
Aye.
Councilmember Dias, Councilmember Bonadies,
Yes.
Councilmember Caesar,
Yes.
Councilmember Klaus,
Yes.
Councilmember Dolan,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
Pass.
Councilmember Gary,
Yes.
Councilmember Horsley,
Yes.
Councilmember McDowell,
Yes.
Councilmember McGarry,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe Lewis. Gotcha. Councilmember Shoemaker,
Yes.
Councilmember Weber,
Yes.
Councilmember Wetmore,
Abstain.
Councilmember Farmer.
No.
Passes with 1 opposed, 1 abstention.
Thank you. It passes. All right. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the mayor's expenditures.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Chief, would you like to speak to the expenditures prior to discussion?
No, I think I hit the high points of what we want to do, unless you want to go in depth in all the 47 47 lines. The things that I want to really key in on are we're adding fire hose from capital improvements to operational expenditures. We're adding $45,000 into the maintenance budget, specifically for catastrophic mechanical failures, so we can go out to bid and, at the speed of business, get the apparatus back in service. And of course, we want to get into the program ESO, which will take us out of antiquated programs and into the year 2022.
Okay. All right, I'll open for discussion.
Yeah.
Chief, I'm gonna take the pleasure of just asking you, do we have any, when you speak to the speed of business, do we have any diesel problems this year?
We do. We had another failure on engine 2 to start the year. You might remember I came in July with an emergency request for over $50,000 because the Cummins diesel failed, and we had to repower the engine. While that engine was out for 7 weeks in our busiest fire district, we replaced it with a 26-year-old engine, which is the next engine in line that can fit in Station 2. And so we had to go for an emergency transfer. The council made that happen under an emergency declaration from the mayor and the finance director. And so we took care of that. We also had a failure for Tower 1. We just got that back about 6 weeks ago. And we had to do that. Parenthetically, aside from, what I do here, I'm also the secretary for the Connecticut Career Fire Chiefs Association. And through my association with the 55 other career chiefs in the state of Connecticut, I posed a question: are you also having, diesel equipment failures on a large scale? And we identified 12 other departments that are also having problems with Cummins diesels. So I reached out to the Attorney General's office, and through the Connecticut Career Fire Chiefs and through the firefighters statewide union, the UPFFA, and we're going to be meeting on possible redress for communities that are having to spend a lot of dollars in order to get these trucks back in service. A lot of what we're finding are the emissions components on the diesels. Frankly speaking, a diesel is meant to be started in Connecticut and turned off in Ohio for lunch. That's not the way we use them, right? And so, I expect failures to continue on, and which is why I'm asking for an upgrade in that line item.
Thank you, Chief. Out of deference, President McGarry, would you like to comment?
Thank you very much, Chair Weber. Just a very basic question. One, we all know from experience that Chief Smurweed's numbers are, incredibly accurate. So thank you, Chief. And I want to also thank Councilor Gary for sharing her experience. That must have been difficult to say to all of us, but I think it also brings home that that kind of story makes us all realize, what we get stuck in the numbers and we can forget the humanity sometimes. So I thank her for reminding us, and Chief, you and all your people for everything you do. And my question is very, very, simple. Director Jackson, through some kind of Groundhog Day typo, the regular salaries are repeated in here.
3 times.
And the bottom number isn't changed at all. So when we approve, we don't have to remove all those, do we, Mr. Jackson, or we can just chalk it up to a typo?
I think that's a top row lock thing of Excel. That's what I. That's,
yeah, you froze the pane in the top. Yeah. But I'm just, from a standpoint, we don't want to end up approving, I don't know, what would that be, like $81 million? That's more than, I trust you, Chief, but $81 million would be a bit outside. But
no, you do need to plan to add to the fire department in the coming years, but I think that's a little bit too much all at once.
Mr. Jackson, you're on mute, sir.
Yeah, I think it would be fine if in your motion you acknowledge the errors on the multiple pages and pass it with an allowance for the finance department to correct such errors.
I'm sorry, who was the original, made the original motion to approve expenses?
Mr. Farmer.
Mr. Farmer. Mr. Farmer, would you accept a friendly amendment to approve the expenses with the typo corrected?
Could you elaborate, Council President?
I'm going to ask Mr. Jackson to repeat what he just said.
Certainly, there is clearly an Excel issue in the fire department's budget that rolled the regular salaries number onto every page. And so so we will call that a typographical error. And so if you seek to move this, just to make everything clean, to move it with the acknowledgement of the typographical error and allow the finance department to make such changes.
I will accept that. I know our parliamentarian is not with us. I will accept that. I just want to make it clear that, again, we trust the chief with a great deal of money, but we're not giving him $81 million, just to clarify.
That is correct. And they all have the same organ object. So that couldn't go into Munis that way.
Cool. I accept that friendly through you, Chairman, to Council President.
And does the seconder accept?
McDowell.
Who is the second?
Mr. McDowell. That's what I have, Ms. Winter.
Yes, Mr. McDowell, that's correct. Mr. Weber.
McDowell, do you accept that the fix the typographical error friendly amendment?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll double check with our parliamentarian. Thank you. That's all for me.
Okay. Pending Council President's return with the friendly amendment, we're going to move forward in discussion. Councilwoman from the 6th District, Mr. Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Chairman Weber, I just want to clarify that if I understand what the chief has reported to us about the adoption of the ESO system, that he needs $35,000 this year in electronic patient care reporting software in order to get that program installed and up and running. And then next year that line would go down to $18,000 or whatever that maintenance fee is. Is that correct?
So no, the way it'll be a recurring cost of 35. 18 is where it was. What it's going to do is replace the $3,200 online EMS training system, the $8,500 Target Solutions Fire Department records retention system, the $1,500 add-on for our checking features for the fire engines, so we can go from paper and we switched it over to iPads. It's going to replace the $2,200 add-on for our code enforcement officials and the $18,000 EMS. If you add all of that together, that comes out to roughly $33,400. So we'll be running these programs concurrently, and then as ESO comes online, we'll give notice to the current vendors and we'll drop those costs off. But in the first year, because we're switching over and we're bringing everybody under one roof, we're going to be running all operating systems until we're out of the cycle.
Okay, so the 35,000 then is what exactly?
That's the ESO program.
Okay, so
Right.
you're going to run that one, and you have to run some of the old programs alongside.
Until it's up and running, and then we'll be able to drop the old programs off.
Okay.
We have to do, in other words, we have to do data transfers. I've got a records retention thing, the same as the town clerk has, right?
Okay, it'll be a little bit confusing if there are multiple expenditure lines involved, but you'll clarify that for us. I'm quite confident.
Well, yeah, that's my hope, yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to check on that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm complete on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Shoemaker. Mr. McDowell, Councilman McDowell, would you like to be recognized?
Yes, please. Thank you. Just Chief, just one last question. Just wanted to go through one blanket. Is there anything that concerns you? Are you good with these numbers? Is there anything you are alarmed about or you think might need to be adjusted before we end here?
No, not alarmed. No, I mean, I'm always concerned about the maintenance line because we've seen the mechanical failures and, the aging of the fleet. And, it's, we haven't passed a capital plan for a couple of years now, three cycles. And so what happens is the infrastructure ages, and then you have to necessarily add, maintenance cost into operations in order to keep the 24-hour fleet rolling. So that's the line that I have most concern over because we still have to provide the service, right? We still have to be able to get out of the barn and, get to the call.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing that gives me most pause.
Okay. Capital plan this year, then I think it sounds like it's going to be really important. So appreciate you taking the time for that question. Appreciate you being here with us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman McDowell. Councilman Farmer from the 5th District, would you like to be recognized?
Yes, Chairman. Thank you. Through you, Chairman, to the Chief. I had a couple of questions on a couple of lines, so I'll just try to rattle through them real quick. I'm sure you'll be able to help us out. The uniform purchase allowance line and the uniform stipend allowance, those two lines are, I guess, last year we didn't actually equate for so much money. So I guess my question to you is, in terms of this uniform allowance stipends, through you, Chairman, is this enough money? And also, are these items that are on the cycle, or are these new items that we need to purchase through you, Chairman?
So these items are on a cycle. 125.01.0672, the purchase allowance, that's the purchase of the uniforms that are worn on a daily basis, including Class A uniforms. That's provided to the members, and that's through the collective bargaining agreement. We aggressively sought through an RFP this year because the collective bargaining agreement's been in place at one specific cost. But of course, everything costs more year over year. So we went out for an aggressive RFP. We changed vendors. We're now receiving uniforms in because we waited until after January to start the ordering. So I believe that we're going to be able to live within that line item. The second line item, the stipend allowance, that goes directly to the memberships, and that's also covered by the CBA. And that's so they can have the uniforms cleaned and laundered. I mean, under COVID, I think you probably understand it more, but we've always recommended that employees do not wash their uniforms at home.
Thank you for that clarification. I have two more questions for you. The vehicle equipment repair/maintenance line. I know that we raised that line item, the 12560635 line. I know we bumped that up, but I guess in terms of bumping that number up from last year's budget, has that helped in any way? Has that mitigated costs in any way?
Yeah, so you remember we did the emergency transfer in, and a bunch of things live inside that line that are recurring costs. We have to test I have it up on my screen here. We have to test the truck lifts up at Public Works where our shop is. We have to do OSHA testing there. We have to do ladder testing, hose testing, pump testing, aerial testing, our breathing air certification. We have to recertify our SCBA every year. We have to recertify our hose. If you add that all together, that's about $20,000 inside that line item. And that's all required by OSHA for safety standards. General maintenance, I'm estimating to run about 84.6, give or take. The additional 45,000 is in case we have catastrophic failure. I don't anticipate going through all that money, but I'd rather that money sit in this line so we can do business and get it done. Naturally with the normal rules applying, then it sit in E&C where it might take up to 6 weeks to make it through committee or call the council for a special meeting to make a repair on an apparatus. I mean, we are running the fleet 24/7.
Through you, Chairman, just a point of clarification to Director Jackson. If there's an emergency and the fire department has to get something fixed, they can do that and then send a communication to us as a informational item. Am I correct?
Well, they can, but it's not clean. So what they'll do is they will send the apparatus to the nearest capable repair facility. And this is, I think, what happened last July, where they were without a piece of apparatus because it's not a clean transaction. The mayor has to issue the order. We need to notify the council. No, I wasn't here for the transaction, so I'm not sure where things may have gotten a little bit hinky. But so if a pumper goes down and we have multiple pumpers, is it an emergency? That becomes where it gets a little bit gray, and we do not like gray.
This should be, I'm sorry to interrupt, and if I'm out of order, please tell me, but it shouldn't be an emergency to do fleet maintenance, right? It should be part of the regular course of business. And so I'm setting up the account, with a $45,000 overcost cushion. I would expect at the end of next year, when it comes to sweeps, that money would be left in there. But we can, we can have a look at that as the year progresses.
Thank you. Just a couple of more questions because I know we're at our ends time, and I do want to get the chief back to his wife and us to our families. So I'll try to be succinct. Chief, through you, Chairman, we've talked about safety equipment for the fire department, in particular, vests and helmets to deter bullets. And I know that's a capital plan. But the intention is to still purchase that equipment. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's not part of my operational plan. It's part of the capital request. It's part of becoming it's rescue task force operations. Anything bad that happens in town, the fire department's going to respond to, whether you equip us properly or not. We're going to go. We just saw what happened in Brantford 2 years ago. We had multiple shootings in Westwoods. We're going to go to try to treat the sick and injured, and because that's what we do. My preference would be to protect my personnel to the best of my ability, because we have to send them into harm's way to get that done. I have that covered under a capital request. The training for that would be all in-house. We've sent people out for train the trainer. I've taken some courses in it myself. So that'll be coming to you in a capital request, not in operations.
Thank you. And for those who may not know, a couple of weeks ago, Brantford had an armed shooter shooting high caliber bullets for about 6 hours standoff. Very traumatic event for community members there. And I thank the chief for his leadership thinking forward. The only last question I'll really ask is the capital budget. Through you, Chairman, to the finance department. I might have missed it. Haven't been on my emails as diligently last week as I'd like to. But I would love to know when we're getting the capital budget, unless I missed it and we already have it through you, Chair.
I'm sorry, you do not have it. I was hopeful to get some sense was it last night? The nights blur a little bit. Making sure that there wasn't going to be anything in the debt service line that might interrupt the process. But I've gotten from our financial advisors the space or the cap that we have. And so I'm working on it to put it into presentation format as we speak.
I thank you, Director Jackson. I feel I'm being unfair to you, but I've been asking for it for 2 years, so I hope I'm not being too much. But I do want to get to some of these items because department heads, I feel they are frustrated with us, and so I just want to be able to do the best job that I can through you, Chair.
And I could not agree with you more, Mr. Farmer. When I came in and found that we had gone 2 years without a capital improvement plan, I was stunned.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer. All right, any other discussion? Okay, I'm just gonna quickly just take the privilege one more time to thank you, Chief, for all the good work that you do. And I'll even do you one better. I'll hand you the mic back for 30 seconds just to give kudos and love to the brave women and men that serve under you. And take the mic if you like.
I'd like to thank you all for your thoughtful consideration this evening and for the lively discussion. I mean, I could talk about the fire department until you all fell asleep because I'm a zealous advocate for the people that work here. I would like to thank, I took a look at the attendees. We have the stations logged on this evening. I'd like to thank the people that are working this evening for sticking with the process, for investing their time and effort, and ask for them to have a safe rest of the shift, and to thank you all for your service.
Thank you, Chief. It brings me joy to know that we have such talented chiefs and department heads, non-union people like serving and spending time with us, well beyond the hours. So thank you again. Also, okay, so I'll call a vote. All in favor of passing the expense part of the budget?
As amended.
As amended. Thank you, Council
Aye.
President.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? One abstention.
Got it.
It passes. All right. That concludes this portion of our meeting, our deliberation. I'm going to pass the mic back to Council President McGarry.
Thank you all.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Be safe, be well, and thank you for everything you do. Councilor Farmer, you have something for the good of the order?
Yeah, just it's my fault because I wasn't able to get on earlier. So through you, Council President, when we get that date for a public hearing, if we can, I'm sure we will share it out to people. But until then, just asking in privilege, is it possible for us to remind community members at the beginning and end that we will be taking public comment from them and the date that it has not yet been set, so that individuals don't feel that we as the body are ignoring them or disrespecting them? Through you, Chairman.
Sure, I'll try to remember to do that. I think we can also encourage folks, as some people are, especially I don't know if you guys have been getting all the library emails still. They're still coming. And that's great. I'm glad people love our library. So please, if anyone has anything, they can email Ms. Renta, and she will share it with the entire body. But yes, we will have a public hearing. We have tentative dates for the 11th and the 13th that are open. We do have tabled items we will have to deal with at some point. But once we have gone through all of our items, we will schedule a public hearing and then a final night for the budget in general. Just a reminder, we do have council committees on Monday. We'll get the agenda out tomorrow, we'll get the items from the administration tomorrow, the agenda hopefully out Thursday or Friday. And then we have next week, Tuesday the 4th, Wednesday the 5th, and Thursday the 6th. A busy week. Public Works and Recreation on Tuesday, Building, Planning and Zoning, Engineering on Wednesday, and Police, Animal Control, and Traffic on Thursday. Actually, we are going to invert the schedule on Thursday. We'll have Animal Control and Traffic first, then Police afterwards. So look at that, with 18 minutes to spare. Everyone have a very pleasant evening, and we'll see you on Monday. Good night, all.
Safe travels.
Good night.